Okay, I shall now move on to today's webinar. I'd just like to say a big hello and welcome to everyone that's joined us this afternoon for Stronger Together, the role of connection in workplace wellbeing. This is in advance of Mental Health Awareness Week, which starts next week. My name's Nicole Core. I'm the Marketing Director here at Medigold Health and I head up our webinar programme. Just a little bit of housekeeping that I'll run through. So as you may have heard if you were in right at the start, the session is recorded. So what we'll do is send you a link via email tomorrow to the recording. Please feel free to share that far and wide and tune in again if you'd like to watch it again. As I mentioned as well earlier, you're not visible at all on the webinar, so feel free to sit back, relax, enjoy your sandwich, salad, whatever you're eating at lunch. We make time for Q&A at the end of the session. So please do pop in your questions. You'll notice at the bottom of your screen there's a chat function and a Q&A function. We're going to be using both throughout the webinar. So if you've got any questions that you'd like our panelists to answer, please pop them in the Q&A bit. And then we've got the chat. If there's anything you want to share, Alice and Kath will also be asking for a little bit of interactivity throughout, so that if you can use the chat function for that as well, we'll look forward to hearing from you. We don't send out the PowerPoint presentation slides. We send out the link to the recording. It is a commercial product that you're getting here today. So Kath and Alice are part of our wonderful training team, and we do a whole host of awareness webinars for businesses. So we don't actually share the slides, but we do share the recording. And that's it from me. That's enough from me waffling on. I'll hand over to the lovely Kath.
I'm Kath Wood, mental health training consultancy specialist, also covering disability and neurodiversity, hence my appearance on next week's webinar. I lead on products and consultancy, so I work on developing and delivering training sessions, resources, toolkits, and of course the wonderful webinars.
And then there's me, so I'm just going to jump in there. So my name's Alice. I'm one of the training and consultancy specialists. I'm also one of the workplace needs assessors, because I just love having two jobs. Who doesn't? I'm really looking forward to today's webinar. So I'm going to pass you back to Kath to get us rocking and rolling.
Okay, so the aim of this session is really looking at a range of different elements relating to connectivity, community and connection. So we're going to be looking at the key ingredients of resilience and the role of connection and social support in that. We're going to be looking at how communication, collaboration, a supportive culture within the workplace builds psychological safety. We're going to talk about how to provide opportunities for your team to use social support to develop their resilience and improve their mental well-being. And we're going to finish by looking at the 5 ways to well-being, and 2 of the particular ways focus on connection and community. So we'll be exploring how that can be used in more practical ways beyond the workplace and not just in the workplace. So looking at resilience to start with, there are many different definitions of resilience. I could have filled a slide with them in our training, I probably do, but we're looking at a single one which I think summarises it really well, which is from Robertson and Cooper. So they say that resilience is about the capacity to maintain your well-being and performance when you're under pressure, including being able to bounce back from setbacks effectively and deal with change. Definitely relevant to the modern workplace. In essence, it's the ability to deal with pressure and stress in a positive way, much more than just coping or surviving. So why is resilience important? Well, there's lots of reasons. There's benefits to your physical health, your mental well-being and work performance. So health-wise, stress and excess pressure experienced over a prolonged period of time can affect all sorts of different body systems, including our cardiovascular system. So it can increase the likelihood of high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, and even be involved in the onset of diabetes. It can impact your digestive system, which can lead to issues such as IBS. It can also trigger or worsen symptoms of other health conditions such as asthma, eczema, psoriasis, migraine, and many others. Plus, chronic stress can be a precursor to developing mental health conditions such as depression or anxiety. So if resilience can reduce the impact of pressure and stress, it can also protect us from more of the serious consequences of stress. At work, if we're more resilient, we can manage pressure, change and adverse situations in a more balanced way and even a positive way. We can think more clearly, we can focus and concentrate better, able to retain more information in our brains. We'll be able to use more balanced judgment, make better decisions. We can organise ourselves more effectively, manage our time more effectively, be punctual, reliable, and also bring a positive attitude to the tasks of work. All of this helps our performance, but it also means we can contribute more to the team and to the business. So it's no wonder that businesses are looking at the topic of resilience more and more. Resilient people are less likely to experience the effects of stress, and therefore a resilient workforce will be less likely to take time off, which reduces absenteeism. They're more likely to keep performing at a really good level during times of adverse pressure, which reduces presenteeism when people are at work but not performing to their full ability. And it helps a team and organisation achieve more output and reduces the costs of covering those who are absent or leave the business through ill health. So now is the first task I'm going to ask you to type into chat. So remember, questions into Q&A and your suggestions to this one, to this particular question, to the chat box. So I would like to know, what do you think are the characteristics of a resilient person? What's involved in being resilient? How do people behave? How do they act? How do they communicate? How do they solve problems? How do they react? What sort of body language do they show? I just want to kind of know all of the different suggestions into chat. Okay, some great answers coming in already. I'm trying to keep up with everybody. So managing emotions came up a couple of times, being reflective, having a good support network, being confident, thinking outside the box, being calm, professional, good open communication, emotionally stable, clear judgment, confidence has come up again, optimistic, taking a step back to think clearly, positive, a growth mindset, taking a moment before reacting, adaptable, resourceful, able to take constructive criticism, loads and loads and loads. And I think you've got some really good answers. So hopefully you've had a chance to read everybody's suggestions. So I'll take you through mine. So when individuals are resilient and thriving, they're usually taking just one slide back, actually, not a bit too quick. I need a few more of my answers first. So when people are resilient and thriving, they're usually able to take a really positive problem-solving approach to any difficulty. They're able to look at a range of strategies, draw on a few options to kind of help them to cope with pressure. They're usually flexible, adaptable, and willing to kind of respond positively to change and to learn new ways of doing things. They usually greet new situations, new people, new demands with a positive attitude. They think accurately and logically when they're under pressure in difficult situations. They offer support to colleagues and they ask for support and help when they need it. They're usually willing to persevere when the going gets tough, but understand their own limits and able to kind of push back when they're feeling too much pressure. So all of those elements are really important for surviving the modern workplace. So moving on, Nicole, the next slide shows a little bit around the different ingredients for resilience. So luckily, if we're not resilient, there is an option to build your resilience. So resilience is a combination of personal characteristics that we innately have and also learned skills. So we can always develop the quality of resilience, whatever our starting point. And that's good news for those of us who aren't naturally resilient, as we can definitely develop and improve over time our skills in this area. So on this slide, you can see some common themes that we've identified across a range of different models of resilience. So we didn't want to put all the models up, but I've kind of drawn out the key themes. So flexible thinking and adaptability, responding well to change, seeing a wider perspective, strong sense of purpose, seeing and identifying meaning in a situation and being persistent, being confident, optimistic, seeing positives and experiencing positive emotions, developing good coping strategies, looking after your mental well-being through self-care, maintaining good physical well-being, and finally, the topic that's our focus today, social support and strong relationships. So now let's move on and think about the role of connection and community in psychological safety. So lots of definitions on this slide. I'm not going to read them all out. So the term of psychological safety is increasingly being heard across workplaces and is reported as a key factor in the successes of teams and of businesses. It's thought to be really important in enhancing employee engagement, developing and retaining the talent within the business, driving innovation and continuous development, and overall improving the results of the business. So amongst these definitions, you can obviously identify some relative themes of an environment where people feel encouraged, safe, able to be themselves, comfortable to speak up and to give feedback. So we look on the next slide at the kind of key ingredients, the 4 elements that kind of build up to psychological safety. We can see the link to communication, connection and social support, and it becomes even stronger. So we can see the 4 ingredients are communication, rapport and relationships, encouraging problem solving, innovation and risk taking, consultation, collaboration and teamwork, and having an open and supportive culture. So I'm now going to take you through 3 different ways that we can foster that really good psychological safety in a business by developing our connections and community in the workplace. So back 1 slide, we've got a bit more on this topic yet, Nicole. So thinking about our communication, rapport and relationships, you could do a few different things, including be considerate of how your message might come across in different channels. So particularly emails and messages, because sometimes things can be misinterpreted. Practice active listening, so lean forward to show engagement, be aware of your body language and facial expressions, ask good questions to make sure that you understand other people's ideas and opinions, reflect back what has been said to make sure you've understood the rest of your team suggestions clearly and that you can clarify any misunderstandings. Have a really good open door policy, be approachable, open-minded, non-judgmental, welcoming those suggestions, encouraging questions and feedback from others, and making sure you communicate with empathy. So we can foster and encourage problem solving, innovation and risk taking in lots of different ways. A few include giving opportunities to share ideas and suggestions, making sure you value different perspectives and opinions, encouraging experimentation and careful risk taking, making it clear that mistakes will happen, reframe these mistakes as an opportunity to learn, avoid blaming, which helps to build trust, really not calling out individuals in front of the whole team. Make sure you focus on solutions, not problems. So rather than thinking what happened and why, ask how can we make sure this goes better next time. Giving it a we statement rather than an I statement, showing that it's a group effect rather than pointing out your own contribution or somebody's individual contribution. And make sure that you're really open about owning your own failures and mistakes. So moving on to developing an open and supportive culture. So thinking about making sure that employees are the first to know about any changes. Start conversation, encourage lively debate, ask your employees lots of questions. When making decisions, consult the team, ask for their input, thoughts and feedback. Explain the rationale and reasoning behind decisions. So even if employees don't agree with them, they'll appreciate the transparency of how that decision was made. Invite your team to challenge your perspective, ask questions and push back. Set clear expectations and concrete goals and make sure you articulate them clearly. Define what is expected of people and what success looks like. And support your employees to reach their own goals, as well as looking at the contribution to the wider team and business goals. And finally, a few ideas for how you can foster consultation, collaboration and teamwork. So understanding diversity within your team, being aware of your own potential unconscious bias, recognise and celebrate different ways of thinking, learning, communicating, lead with compassion and humanity, be vulnerable and show empathy. Don't be afraid to admit your own shortcomings. Make sure you advocate and represent your team's views in meetings and upwards to leadership. Share the works team and achievements widely to increase visibility and appreciation. Give credit to the team or individual colleagues when it's due. Help to make people feel important and respected and support their personal and professional development. And nipping any negativity in the bud. And this includes challenging and addressing any bullying or workplace harassment quickly and effectively. So we can see a real connection between community and connection and our psychological safety and our resilience. Now I'm going to move over to Alice, who's going to take you through some more practicalities about social support.
Perfect. Thank you, Kath. And thank you to everyone who added into that chat activity. A particular thank you actually to John Holland, who said that the key ingredient to resilience was Chardonnay. That did make me laugh out loud, so I very much appreciate that. So we're now going to think about social support. So that's our network. So our network of people who actually provide support to us. Now, the diagram on the screen shows the circles of support, and that is one way of looking at our support network. So we've got the circle of intimacy. Now that's the people that we feel really close to, so the people that we trust. Frankly, the people that we can be more vulnerable with. people that we can be ourselves with. Now, that can be our close family members, it can be our best friends, or it could be our partners. It's our loved ones. We've then got the circle of friendship. So that's our good friends, you know, the people that we socialize with, engage with regularly, send memes to on WhatsApp, whatever it may be. The people who are in your close friends story on Instagram, it is those people. We've got the circle of participation. So those are our acquaintances, people that we gain from our education, our work, maybe our hobbies and our interests. It might be our neighbours. I love my neighbours. Pam, she does my gardening for me. She's a legend. People from our community, people you say hi to on the dog walk. Yeah, now some of those people in this circle might end up moving into the circle of friendship. It might be the circle of intimacy. It's quite fluid. And then finally, we've got the circle of exchange. So those are the people who provide a service to us. That might be someone like a medical professional. Yeah. Now, there are lots of different types of support that we need from our circles or from our network. You might need practical support. So someone to help you fix something, make something, someone to give you a lift, get your shopping in, you know, or even help you move house, lend you money, whatever it might be. And our circles might also give us information support. So someone to answer a question, teach us a skill, you know, maybe signpost you to a really useful or helpful resource. These are the people that give us advice and guidance, and maybe even share their experiences of a similar situation. But we also need emotional support. Yeah, now that can be reassurance, it might be moral support and encouragement. It could just be listening. We all love to vent. Yeah, you might need to share something or share a different view or get an independent perspective. And it's people who support our decisions and our opinions and give us confidence. But equally, our supporters do sometimes need to challenge us, because that makes sure that we've got a balanced view of a situation. Because we can gain a sense of belonging and a sense of identity from being part of a group. So with that in mind, I'm going to get you to use your brains again and get you to go back in the chat. So I would like you to use the chat box to answer a question for me. Now, what can be done at work to provide the social support that people might need? I'll have a look and read out some of your answers. Chardonnay is not an answer, John, but I will appreciate it if you say that anyway. Well-being drop-ins, yeah, absolutely love that. Regular check-ins. Regular check-ins is really important. Obviously, you've got one-to-ones with managers there. Someone saying water cooler time. I love that. I work from home. I can just hang out at my sink. That's fine. That'll do. Oh, goodness me. Everyone's got loads of great suggestions. Having a best friend at work. Yeah, I agree completely. Coffee and a chat. Throw some cake into coffee and the chat and I'm there. Sign me up. The wellbeing meetings is coming in quite a lot. Tea and toast. Everyone loves a snack, is what I'm gathering from this chat here. Comedy in the workplace. Again, sign me up. I think I'm funny. That's all that really matters. And using empathy to understand the situation. Someone said there about having champions, so various champions, whether that's well-being champion, menopause champion, some really great stuff in there. There's some fantastic themes, folks. I hope you're all reading the chat here. The word well-being is coming up quite a lot, and obviously well-being means different things to different people. For some it's taking a break, for others it's leaving work early. That's fine, whatever works for you. Team breakfast. Oh, we just love eating, don't we? Thank you so much, everyone, for contributing to the chat. Some really good suggestions in there, and some fantastic theme. Someone said office gossip brackets within reason. That caveat was very important, but I do very much appreciate it as bringing back the water cooler chat, isn't it? But thank you so much for that, everyone. Look at you having to use your brains on a Thursday lunchtime. How cruel. But it's great, it's fantastic. So we're going to look now at some opportunities for support. You've provided some fantastic suggestions. So if we can just have a look at the next slide. So we've got, let's have a quick look. I'm still distracted by the Chardonnay, clearly. Now, you can create opportunities for colleagues to meet regularly. So this is what's been suggested in the chat. Now, that might be things like reviews, really inclusive team meetings. Now, by inclusive, I mean making time for everyone. So making sure that everyone's got time to speak and share their views. It is important for team meetings, not just to be about messages from managers and the business. Controversially, you are actually allowed to have fun in the workplace. Yeah. Bold statement, I know, but it is very much true. There might be other opportunities, things like sharing good ideas, sharing good practice. One example is something like a case review. So you can talk about stuff that's gone well, stuff that you might be struggling with. So there's always a learning opportunity. And time for problem solving as a group. It's a bit of a team building activity. Now, it also gives people the opportunity to work with others outside of their immediate teams. And that is fantastic. And it makes you feel engaged as part of an organization. So we can do things like cross-departmental working, forums, message groups, actually even linking up with people in similar roles in different businesses. So that can be through things like conferences, going to events, and promoting the use of external forums and media such as LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn all the time. I consider myself to be, again, a LinkedIn comedian. I try my darndest, but it's really good for engagement. I've met some fantastic people within my company who I would never realistically cross paths with because of LinkedIn. Yeah, it's fantastic. Now, you can have this impact, right, by encouraging things like positive feedback and praise from other people in the team, and most importantly, celebrating individual and team success. Make some noise, shout about it. Now, you can find ways of things like enabling, recognizing, and rewarding cooperation because it makes us feel good about ourselves. Now, that can be pairing people up on tasks, using team rewards, team incentives, that kind of thing. We've got Buddy, or a mentor scheme that can provide opportunities for more experienced colleagues in practical tasks. It's also another route for sharing worries. That was some of the suggestions that we had in the chat. Communal facilities, when we work in an office, things like lunchrooms and staff rooms, that gives employees the opportunity to gather together and actually chat, get to know each other a bit. Social events as well, so team building events, just hangouts, they can be really helpful ways to get the team to know each other a little bit. Quick caveat, remember that not everyone finds that easy. So social events are wonderful, but they should never be mandatory. So bear that in mind. Also, things like remote and hybrid. I mean, clearly I'm in my house. It is important that employees don't become isolated. Yeah, so that's where things like regular check-ins, which we've suggested in the chat, with lone workers or remote workers, they need to take place. Now, ideally, if possible, they should be through video calls and not phone calls. Because if you can see someone, it's a lot easier to pick up on the signs of stress or the signs of anxiety because we got body language as a tool that we can rely on as well. So that's just a bit of a quick tip for you there. And of course, we should always make sure that people are actually aware of what support is available to them. So that could be through the services and resources that you offer. That might be, your EAP, but equally, it could also be a list of external organisations as well. There's loads of stuff we can do. All right. Now, we're going to think about supporting and role modelling healthy behaviour now, because there is more that you as a manager can do as well. So just a few ways that you can support and actually role model that healthy workplace behaviour. It's important to be approachable and available. Now, you'd think that goes without saying, but you would be surprised. People should feel comfortable to actually take a lunch break away from their desk. I appreciate some people are having their sandwich now at their desk. That's absolutely fine. But it should be a one-off and not a regular occurrence. It's normal to take regular breaks throughout the day. We want to feel like it's normal. Now, you can communicate that verbally, but it's perhaps a bit more important for you to model that behaviour yourself, because people often copy the workplace behaviour of their manager. So if they think that having lunch at your desk and working extra is the expected behavior or culture, then that's what people are going to do. Yeah, it's the same with working extra hours or working outside of your designated work hours. Doing it as a one-off is fine, stuff happens, but some people do it on a regular basis. Now, if you value your own work-life balance and actually prioritize looking after your mental well-being through stuff like self-care, then it's way more likely that members of your team will actually do that as well. Okay, so this is what we mean by role modeling good behavior. Now, we have discussed the value of team meetings, but one-to-ones, like we were saying in the chat, they are equally as important. Now, quite a lot of the time, one-to-ones are dominated by targets, KPIs, yeah, all that stuff. But don't forget that you can use them as well-being check-ins as well. And if you, discuss and actually agree on things like deadlines and workload, people are way more likely to be engaged and feel positively about it. Just having something land on your desk without discussion, not even an email, not a heads up, that's just going to add a burden of stress to someone, and that's the opposite of what you're trying to do. Yeah, we've heard that team dynamics are important, so if there are any conflicts within a team, that should be resolved quickly and professionally as well. Yeah. Now I'm going to pass you back to my wonderful Kath, who's going to end us on a brighter note. So we're going to talk about some of the practical things that we can actually do to boost our well-being.
So I'm recognising I'm going to have to read quickly because I expect to get a lot of answers for this one as well. So before I talk a little bit around the 5 ways to well-being, I would like you to share in chat the activities that you do that boosts your mental well-being. So if you've had a tough week or a tough day, they're the things that you do that you can turn to that ultimately give you that boost. And I can't keep up already because there's loads coming into the chat. So I'll pick out as many as I can. Some common themes of exercise, so running and walking, having a bath, reading or crosswords, taking a walk, playing poker at the pub, that's a double benefit there, making cupcakes, lifting weights, anything being creative, cuddling your cats. Yeah, I definitely think that pets are a massive boost to my well-being. Board gaming, baking, crafting, crochet, family and friends, being courteous. I really like that one, Nicola. You'll see why in a minute because it adds into the themes very much. So I'm going to go through the 5 ways to well-being, and I want you to have a look back through the chat, and I will do the same to try and pick out a few examples of each of the 5 ways. And then I'm going to pull out the 2 particular ones that focus on connection and community along with the theme. So you can see on the slide, we've got the 5 ways. So this is evidence-based actions that can improve your mental and physical health and overall well-being. So we've got connect, keep learning, take notice, be active, and give. So connect is about building and maintaining strong social connections. So we've talked a lot about that already. So links with family and friends, with colleagues, and they can significantly boost well-being. So seeing the grandkids, meeting friends, going to the pub, playing a sport, seeing the family, all of those link to connect. And you'll find many of the activities that you've typed in and the ones I'm going to talk about actually hit more than one of the 5 ways. So keep learning. That's about learning new skills, pursuing our interests, or developing hobbies. And these can really boost our confidence, our sense of achievement, and our sense of purpose. So I've seen the gym, gardening, crochet, cooking, writing, crosswords, all of those things get our brains moving, our brains working, expand our perspectives, seeing different ways of solutions and learning from other people's experiences. All of that's relevant. It doesn't have to be a formal training course to learn something. Take notice is about paying attention to the present moment, not getting caught up in worrying about things that have happened or worrying about things that are going to happen. So thinking about how we're feeling at the moment, appreciating our surroundings, recognizing little successes, being grateful for things that have happened during the day. And that really helps us to reduce our stress levels and increase awareness. So anything in nature, getting out in fresh air, going for a walk, taking photographs, doing anything artistic, really stops us to help us to sort of pay attention to those positives. So my example would be taking photographs when I'm on a walk, because it makes me stop and appreciate the views. And that's a really important thing. Sometimes we can go for a walk and it doesn't achieve that take notice because our heads are down and we're worrying too much. It's also useful sometimes to go for a walk without your headphones in, so you can listen to the bird song and appreciate nature. Then we've got be active. So I've seen lots of examples about being active, from the gym to a walk, to playing sports. So anything, whether you're active physically, no matter how small, can have a positive impact on your mental health and overall well-being. It boosts our sense of achievement, it improves our sense of our personal identity, it gives us a more positive view of ourselves. It also gives us the endorphins of enjoying that exercise. So generally, mental and physical health are connected. So anything that improves our physical health, it's also going to have a knock-on benefit on our mental well-being. And finally, give. So this is where I was appreciating Nicola's answer. So give is all about acts of kindness and generosity. It can be volunteering, it can be fundraising, it can be helping out your kids' school, it can be getting some shopping in for your neighbour. It could also be holding the door open for somebody, saying thank you, appreciating, giving positive feedback to somebody else, reaching something off a shelf in a supermarket. Now, we might not necessarily recognise as things that we proactively do, but actually maybe recognising that all of those acts of kindness, however small, make us feel good, especially if the other person says thank you, because we get that appreciation back. And that links us back to our sense of community and our social support. So many of the examples you've shared meet loads of these different headings. And if you can really find those activities that hit more than one, then it's a really efficient way of doing lots of positive stuff for your well-being, even if you have very limited time. Often people stop doing some of these activities when they're feeling that their mental well-being is deteriorating. And unfortunately, that means that sometimes we miss out on the very things that would boost our mental health and well-being. So what we really want to focus on is still trying to plan time for these activities, even if we are busy, even if we feel stressed, because it's at those times that we need these boosts more often. So I'm now going to explore two of the headings in a little bit more detail to kind of finalise kind of the importance of connection and community, which is the whole theme of Mental Health Awareness Week next week and the sort of structure of our webinar. So for connecting, few ideas. Phoning somebody or visiting somebody instead of sending an email or a WhatsApp message, making that personal connection. Approaching and talking to somebody new, starting a conversation, or just saying hello. So when you're on a walk, saying hello to somebody walking the other way. Asking somebody how their weekend was and really engaging in the conversation. Sometimes we do small talk and we're not really interested or listening. So making an effort to actively listen and respond and investigate that person's activities a bit more. It will help you to kind of get some new ideas for activities, also make that person feel really valued and listened to, which is a real boost to their mental health and well-being. Asking somebody how they are, but actually really listen and be prepared for the answer. We often drop it flippantly into conversation and we expect somebody to say, oh yeah, I'm fine, all good, thanks. But sometimes people need an opportunity to share something about how they're really feeling. And if we can really provide that opportunity, it's going to be great for them to boost their mental well-being. Again, it's about giving time to people and really listening. And taking some time to get back in touch with somebody that you've lost contact with. When we're looking at our circles of support, there are lots of different life events that can happen that cause our circles to shrink and to change of shape. COVID was one example of how it had a big impact on us. Getting married, having children, and other big life events can actually change the shape of and strength of our circles. So sometimes it's important just to think back and think, okay, who was in my circles of support and who's kind of have I lost touch with? So getting back in touch with somebody that you had a really strong connection with or was really supportive or that you enjoyed spending time with, that you've just lost that connection. And if you have to say, I heard about it on a webinar as the reason to get back in touch with somebody, please do that, because you can feel awkward getting in touch with somebody after a long period of time. For give, and for the purposes of this webinar, I'm going to call this community. So as I said, opening the door for somebody, letting a car out in front of you at a junction, giving up that parking space if somebody else is waiting for it. It's a short-term boost to our sense of well-being because we've done something nice for somebody else. asking your friends or neighbours if they want anything from the shops before you go, asking if anybody needs any help with DIY or gardening if you're a practical person, particularly if those people in your neighbourhood or locality are struggling with some of those more practical tasks. So that's about giving your time to do some of the practical support. If somebody's moving house or organising an event, you know, seeing how you can help and join in. Mark birthdays and anniversaries with a card, a call or a message. I think we rely a lot on social media for dropping a message, but how nice is it to actually open a card or to have somebody call you and say happy birthday or happy anniversary? And you can do that with work anniversaries as well, or you know, there's often things in our systems where we can say send a thank you card for something that somebody's helped us with, and that is a massive boost to somebody's well-being. And again, you get the benefit because you're giving something positive to somebody else, but you're also getting something positive back. Giving up your seat on the bus or train to those who need it. Hopefully they won't be offended if you offer it to somebody. And you can join in with volunteering, organise a fundraising event. Often organisations have different events that they're marking, or you can get involved in a campaign nationally and use some of the resources that is available to kind of put in to do something in the workplace or in your local community. Again, every effort you make to give out, you will receive back in those positive feelings. So hopefully we've shared, and you've shared, more importantly, a lot of ideas. And this is really a full sense of community because you're showing this within the chat. So I would like you to think about all the stuff that we've shared, but also what's been in the chat, and take out those ideas from others that you think are really useful for your own well-being. What can you do in the workplace? What can you do in your personal life with the 5 ways? And think about how you can also give back to other people's sense of well-being too. So now it's time to go back to the Q&A. And if you haven't typed in your questions, please do so now. And Alice and I will tackle some of the questions that you've had on this topic.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. And thank you so much to our, like you said, that real sense of community in our chat going on there. There's just like, I couldn't keep up. There's just some wonderful ideas and lots of things that I resonate with as well, especially dogs and food. So, and some great tips there as well, Kath. I'm quite good at saying hello to people just randomly in the street, and I do enjoy the range of responses that you get with that, because you get some people that will say hello back and engage in the chat, and then some people that look absolutely horrified. But I'm here for it, whatever the response. It's nice, isn't it? But I think the parking space for me is a learning curve, stretched too far at the minute, but I'll take note of that. Thank you.
And I think, you know, when I know the question came up in the chat, I don't know if it's repeated in the Q&A about remote working and working from home.
Yes, it is.
And obviously there's stuff that we can do both at work and also you can do to manage your own mental well-being at work. And those connections on those walks are really vital if you don't see people in day-to-day life.
They really are, actually. They do make all the difference. So, and you just touched upon that point, actually. So we've got a few questions. Please drop any more in because we have got a little bit of time. But there was one particular one that you've just touched upon about lone working. I know you both spoke a little bit about that, but we've had a couple of people ask. I did spot one from Mo. Just any more advice, because so many people are lone working, and just around about that kind of connection, community, how any further tips? I know you said about sort of checking in and making sure that it's perhaps visible check-in, so you can pick up on some of those non-verbal cues. But is there anything else there you've got in your little toolkits?
Well, I mean, as a remote team, Alice and I both work remotely, so we have actively placed a coffee and chat meeting every Wednesday in the middle of the week, really in the middle of the week, to focus on the random chit chat you would normally have in the lunchroom or at the water cooler. And the more random, the better. And if we don't leave that chat with a smile on our face, we've done a poor old job. But as you can imagine, both Alice and I are slightly random. So we do enjoy different conversations, stuff that isn't work related. And we try and keep it really away from work topics unless we absolutely have to. But that is an important part, because otherwise all communication with remote workers tends to be quite functional. It becomes like, I need to send a message, we need to have this meeting. It tends to be all work related. And when you're in an office or a workplace, you walk past people and you have incidental chats. So trying to mimic that. So if you're not having like a coffee and chat session, is actually not being afraid to message somebody just for a chat and say, can we have a call and have a catch up? So not just managers having one-to-ones, but as teams and colleagues, just having that random catch up, you know, even just like important that you have like if you have a work Teams chat, for example, is, you know, having a good morning, how are you, how was your weekend, what you get up to last night, just using the channels we've got to replicate those stuff that we would normally do if we just come across somebody in person. It does take more of an effort, and the issue is obviously sometimes you have to plan those connections more in advance. But yes, don't worry about being random and just dropping a colleague a message, and start the ball rolling, because if you do it, people will do it back to you. And sometimes we just need to kind of reinstigate that sense of community in our cultures, because we might become slightly more distant because we are more remote and hybrid in our working.
Yeah, and to go on to what Kath was saying there, for us, for our team, our Wednesday coffee catch up, the boundaries are really important. So there have been times where something's come up and we've had to talk about work, and we said, right, tell you what, I'm going to call you after this, and then we'll talk about it, because right now we're talking about Martha the dog, camping, Phil wearing a Spider-Man top, whatever it may be. We're having a funny chat and just being human beings, because we're in our houses already. It could be quite hard to mentally have that barrier between I'm my work version of me and I'm also my home version of me, because I'm in my house. And some people try and keep that really separate, and that's fine if that's what they want to do. But remember, your colleagues, they're human beings as well. So we've got, you know, families, pets, stuff to do, have the chat. Because our Wednesday morning, like coffee mornings, are genuinely the highlight of my week. And if someone's too busy and doesn't come for a few weeks,
We badger them. Yeah,
we'll
we
badger
make
them and say, come play, stop working, play with us. We want to see you. Yeah,
And I think, you know, that within, if you are in a remote team, then there's things you can do. Obviously, we've just talked about the 5 ways of wellbeing, things that you can do to instigate those things outside of work to replace some element of that community that you might lose because you're not in a team environment every single day. And again, it's taking the time to plan and instigate those activities and not taking it for granted. You know, and things like getting out of the house and walking and talking to people, doing hobbies where you engage with people, are really important if you work on your own at home. And I've certainly recognised I've upped my level of team activities and group activities outside of work, and I subconsciously did it, but actually looking back now, it's probably because it replaced a need that I didn't get from being in a team every single day of the week. So the workplace can do some stuff, but also outside of work, it's important that we recognise where we might need to up our efforts.
Brilliant. Fantastic advice there from both of you. Somebody has asked here, so with regards to sort of performance, what is the best way to manage an employee who is obviously suffering from poor mental well-being? But how do you discuss poor performance, which may add to the pressures whilst being mindful of the employee's current mental health situation?
I really like this question because it comes up a lot in our mental health training, because quite often people don't just tell you what they're experiencing in a random conversation, or don't approach you. So sometimes the disclosure about struggles with stress come up in other conversations, quite often about sickness management, absence management, or capability and performance. And what that does is it muddies the water and makes it really difficult, because those 2 issues do cross over each other. My advice is, if you're having a conversation about absence management or performance or capability, and it's very clear that a wellbeing issue is going on, is you pause the performance conversation, you focus purely on the wellbeing. You come back to the performance, you come back to absence manager in the future meeting, but you very much focus on the here and now of somebody's health and wellbeing. Another thing would be to think about in your one-to-ones, not going straight into performance and KPIs, and actually asking how somebody is and doing some of that more personal stuff first. Just because it could be that it's a big issue that people want to talk about, but they haven't had an opportunity. And if you go straight into work stuff, they just disengage, and you can't have that really good quality conversation. So divide the issues up, have a real good conversation. So, you know, making it clear that conversation is about well-being and personal development, and not about KPIs, performance, so that people don't come in with that fear and that stress already added to them because they think they're in trouble. So sometimes when you ask a colleague to come to a meeting as a manager, it's like going to the headmaster's office and somebody assumes they're in trouble. So automatically you're increasing their stress levels. There's a huge spike of stress and pressure just coming to the meeting. So separate the issues where you possibly can. You cannot force somebody to talk about their mental health and well-being. All you can do is provide opportunities. So provide multiple opportunities, be sincere and regular in your check-ins with somebody. You know, don't be afraid, as we said, to role model and share some of your own experiences. Don't be afraid to bring up the topic of mental health in a team meeting and showing the resources that are available. It just shows that it's a topic you're happy to talk about. And when the person is ready, they will be comfortable to come and talk about it. And also sharing resources where they can access that without telling you. So things like the Access to Work support service, which is funded by Access to Work. So it's free for the individual, but also they can self-refer, or popularising your EAP if you have one, an employee assistance program, again, which is independent and confidential, making sure people know that they can contact those kind of services even if they're not ready to talk to you. So things like toilet door posters and mentioning them in team meetings can be really effective.
Fantastic.
Have I left you any space, Alice? Sorry, it's my pet topic, so I kind of got away with
No,
stuff. So.
no, I love it. I love your passion and enthusiasm, Cass. See, look, we're connecting. But just my advice is always, don't just be reactive. Think about how you can be proactive as well. I mean, Kath mentioned some of the stuff there. If you create the right environment where people can talk about their mental health and well-being openly, and you're going out of your way to create that environment, then you might find that in the future people are naturally more likely to come to you and talk about these things. It's then easier to separate the issues because we're able to deal with it as two different things. People might feel attacked if you're talking about performance and then suddenly start talking about someone's well-being. That's not going to encourage them to open up. It's going to encourage them to shut down, and that might escalate quite drastically. So Cass advice 100%, and then don't treat it as a single issue. Try and see if there's anything you can do to avoid that happening again in the future.
Right.
I just did a little follow-up question, which is really interesting, about how to come back to managing poor performance. I think you have to recognise and say, this is a conversation we'll need to have in the future. Once we feel like we've got a handle on stress and mental well-being, we will visit that conversation. But I'd like you to come to that conversation with an open mind, because we want to try and support you to achieve your full potential. And we recognise that actually stress can have an impact on your performance. So let's try and work together to help you feel better, but then let's try and work together to help with performance. So I think you have to be honest and say, we're not going to just ignore it, because you can't. So you have to be a performance manager and an absence manager, but you also have to be a people manager. And it's sometimes putting one hat on and off, depending on what the situation is.
Great. And actually one of our audience, Pooja, I do apologise if I pronounced that incorrectly, but some great advice as well on the top on the back of what you both said, is also utilising our H department. So putting forward a referral if it's a mental health or well-being issue that the employees discussed, and getting HR, BP involved as well. So yes, thank you for that. We've also got, I see we've got quite a debate going on in the chat as well about jam or cream first. I think that was our friend John Holland who started a debate in the chat there.
I would rather talk about politics. I would genuinely be more comfortable arguing about politics than I would getting involved in the jam first, cream first debate. That is far too controversial for my liking.
See what you've done, John? No, thank you. I love it.
I'm loving these questions. I've just been reading them through. I don't know which one you're going to.
I know which one you've got your eye on, Kath. Is it the one from Seb?
It is, but
Yes.
There's also a couple of others I'd quite like to get my teeth into as well.
Go ahead. Should we start with the one from Seb and then you go on to that? You just pick out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably one right up your street. So Seb's asked, thank you, great question. A lot of the traits of resilience that were raised were very neurotypical traits. Are there any suggestions you'd have for us to support our neurodiverse colleagues, please? Go on, Kath's nodding away.
Yeah, I would love you to join our future webinars and to go back and have a look on YouTube for our previous ones to explore that fully, because it's not something I can answer in 5 minutes. But I do believe that anybody can develop resilience. So it is about identifying which of the characteristics or ingredients of resilience that people relate to best and that have an area of strength, and you can build on that strength. There are some questionnaires you can do out there to kind of identify your skills and strengths, and then you can play to them. So I'd say the biggest number one thing I would say to build resilience for neurodivergent colleagues is to understand their skills and strengths, really explore that, because a lot of conversations that people have had about their neurodivergence is about the problems and issues and difficulties they're having. So let's flip the coin, let's ask people about their skills and strengths, and let's play to them, because that will build your confidence, and confidence will see you through a lot of challenges in the workplace. So I would say that would be my number one answer. But yeah, please feel free to look at the other neurodivergent stuff we've done, because there's a lot more to it than that, but that would be my number one thing.
Thank you. You far away there, Kath, whichever ones have put that twinkle in your eye there, I can see.
Yeah, so I really like, there's a question around remote workers who are struggling to join calls or have contact other than anything other than emails. And this came up in conversation the other day between Alice and I, actually, about pre-planned. So you might prefer a message because the call is random and not planned, and it's the surprise element and the unknown element which really affects your stress levels. So rather than just having only unplanned, you can message and say, are you free for a call at 3 o'clock? It's about this. So you don't have the fear that it's about something terrible, load of change or something bad happening in the business. You just know what it's about, but it's ahead and it's booked ahead. So I would say try and encourage that you pre-plan, but you do have those calls, not just messages. It's about building towards that. And it start with cameras off. You know, I would like to build toward cameras on, but cameras off might be helpful, because people sometimes find that direct eye-to-eye contact more challenging when they're feeling stressed. So that's what I would say for that one.
Yeah, it's a form of managing expectations, really. I mean, for context, Kath literally is talking about me, because if you call me out of the blue, I've never done anything wrong. I will immediately assume I'm about to be sacked. I can't explain why. It's just like neurodivergent alarm goes off. It's horrific, and it's a really simple thing to explain to people why you want to talk to them. Even if you just want to talk to them for fun, like if you want to rant or anything, just say, "Can I call you at this time? Are you free at this time? I would like to talk to you at some point this week. When are you available? I want to see you." You know, so even with the whole cameras on, cameras off thing, tell people, manage that expectation. I think I saw something in the chat there about how do you tell someone you want a cameras on chat. I think part of it's to do with language, and the why. Yeah, because if you just say cameras on chat, then if you said that to me, I'd think, if I had turned my camera off too much, am I in trouble? If people started watching me? And I know it sounds paranoid, but that's those of us who've got the catastrophizing type brains. Those are the kind of thought processes that we can go into. So if you want a cameras on meeting, tell me why you want a cameras on meeting, justify it, and it's going to be far easier for me to join and actually engage. I can't promise I won't be staring at myself the whole time, because I've got a habit of doing that when the camera's on, but at least you can see my face.
I love the transparency.
Yeah.
So Nicole, I've seen a couple of questions about different industries.
Yes.
So I've seen some about the shop floor, I've seen something about the sector. So I'm going to tackle these slightly differently. I would say most of the stuff we've talked about applies across any industry. What I would say that probably causes a slight more of a challenge is if people work on shifts or they work across multiple sites, because that can make a challenge of kind of how much you can connect people together. There's also different organisations that not everybody has an access to the Teams chat, not everybody has email access. So it's about thinking about what's the best way to communicate with your colleagues to give them the information, so that information support, and making sure there's routes to practical support, but actually it is about grouping people together for that emotional support. So you might have to think differently if you can't spare people off the shop floor to necessarily have too many meetings, if people are working different shift patterns or working remotely across different sites offering care to people. So it is about thinking creatively. You know your industry, you know the ways that your businesses have to work, but it's like, how can you provide those opportunities for the practicalities of support from their team? How can you make sure they get the right information? And that might just be old-fashioned letters, posters, letters in people's drawers. You might have to go old school. You know that your communication channels better than I would. And then thinking about how do you collect people together physically, or through different channels to kind of be able to become a more cohesive team. And you might need to invest some time away from the day job to do that. but I believe anything that you invest in bringing your team together will benefit your business in engagement, in productivity, in reducing absence and retaining talent and loyalty and reliability. So you're kind of thinking you have to kind of give up a little bit of that practical day job stuff to invest in this, but you should get that back tenfold if you do it right.
Thank you.
We can see we like this topic, don't we, Nicole?
Yes, it's great. We've got 4 minutes left, so I think you can hoover up a couple more questions in that time. Anything that stands out to you?
So there was a question around leadership and the them and us attitude. There was 2 questions which I kind of think are fairly similar.
Yeah.
So thinking about how do we encourage leaders who don't care. Now I'm not going to make any judgment about who has written that course. I'm glad you've left it anonymous, because it isn't about any particular identifiable organisation. In general, it's about actually getting people to understand the benefits of positive mental well-being in the workplace. So you can, leaders might do it because it's the right thing to do. It's a moral responsibility. And really, we do have a responsibility to employees' health and well-being and their safety. And obviously, all of the stuff we're talking about really helps that. And if somebody has a mental health condition, there's a legal responsibility to do it because they could be covered by the Equality Act. But most importantly, in the middle bit, is really that any leader who is not engaged with it from a moral or ethical business has the bottom line of their business. And if they believe that results are the most important, then we need to show them that results are impacted by good and bad mental health in the business. And that might be getting the business to look at data of how many of your absences are related to mental health, how many days are lost, how much money is lost in the business because of poor mental health. It might be looking at stress risk assessment for the whole business to see where the challenges are. So sometimes it can be data driven, and if people are only motivated by results, let's show them how results are impacted by poor mental health. And that might be the final thing to get people to think about it. So I don't care why people think about it, as long as they think about it. So we might have to play to their particular areas of interest in this.
Great point. Great response. Thank you, Kath.
I'm still thinking about the scone versus scone thing. I've gone. It's upset me at this point.
Yeah, I've avoided saying the S word because I never pronounced it right. So yeah.
And that was just to come back onto that them and us feeling. So Sophie, that's particularly why we put the role modelling slide in, because I do feel if you engage about your own personal situation and say what you're struggling with and what you've done about it, it's probably better than any policy, any notes in a meeting, any poster about showing somebody that mental health really does matter in your team. So I would say if you are the manager in this of them and us, then doing something and talking about your own experiences and role modelling and putting an effort in to do the right thing for yourself has a benefit, obviously, for your mental health, but it also shows the team that you do care because you're doing it yourself. From a point of view of us, if you feel like your line manager isn't engaged in it, you can still be a supportive colleague. You don't need your line manager to give you that green flag to go. Just do it anyway. You know, do the stuff that we've talked about for your colleagues, even if the line manager isn't engaged, because, you know, ultimately you'll still be able to give and receive the support, and hopefully the line manager will see the benefit of it and might get engaged.
Fantastic. That's a wonderful note to finish us on. So huge thank you, Kath and Alice. Great webinar as always. Massive thank you to our audience. I would publicly like to announce you've won the accolade of best chat ever, because it's just been great. So I love it. It's really gone on the community theme. So thanks ever so much for everyone for tuning in and being so engaged and funny as well. We've got the humour in there as well, which is really important when it comes to connection and community. So keep your eyes peeled for the recording. We will have another link in there as well if you'd love to see Kath again next week. She's live on Tuesday, so they're
rolling me out again.
Yeah, you'll have the opportunity to sign up for that if you didn't get a chance at the start. And I'd just like to say thank you all and happy Mental Health Awareness Week for next week, and have a wonderful afternoon.